Thank you very much. I'm going to speak about public health and particularly the aspect of the effects on health of climate change. First of all, I would like to show a kind of big picture concerning the changes that took place in the last decades or even century. That is, first of all, the big growth in the population, obviously, which was accompanied by other big changes, exponential changes in the use of energy and the use of water. And these are some of the underlying engines beyond some of the effects we observe now in terms of public health. Of course, we have also good news like the decrease in poverty we have observed in the last century, an increase in life expectancy, and unfortunately an increase in the use of land, which means deforestation and other side effects. Again, in terms of bad news, there has been a big loss of tropical forest, deforestation. We are going towards an era of very serious water shortage, which is becoming one of the main problems for humankind in the next years. This goes together with an increase in temperatures related to climate change, and as a consequence, ocean acidification, and also an increase in the loss of biodiversity. Biodiversity, in fact, has not been studied extensively until recently, as opposed to climate change. I have just a couple of slides about public health in general, because I want to make 2 points. The first point is that we tend to think that non-communicable diseases, as opposed to infectious diseases, are relatively slow in their epidemiological changes, but this is not necessarily true. This is a typical observation we make concerning the growth of low-income countries. When they develop, we observe this crossing of the curves for breast cancer and cervical cancer, which have quite different risk factors. So breast cancer increases and cervical cancer decreases when countries like India or Thailand have gone or go through development and growth. So non-communicable diseases can change rapidly, and they may also be affected, as I will show, by climate change. And then I just want to remember that epidemiology has made big leaps forward. It has undergone considerable development just in the last decades, overcoming the limitations related to, let's say, descriptive epidemiology or epidemiology based on simple interviews. And now we have very powerful tools which concern the measurement of pollutants in the environment, but also the measurement of molecular changes in the body through high-throughput technologies, omics, metabolomics, proteomics, epigenetics, and so on. This is just an example about endocrine disruptors. So this is a grant from the European Commission we have obtained, and we are going to measure endocrine disruptors, including PFAS, in the environment. We do animal experiments and experiments in vitro. Then we measure different types of omics in humans, and then at the end we look at health outcomes, for example, autoimmune diseases. But now I come to the main topic, which is climate change. As I said, we have been knowing that climate change was a reality in the last probably at least 30 years. It is due to human activities. The spectrum above shows the changes in temperature. The one below shows a loss of biodiversity, which has been investigated more recently. And it is probably as dramatic as climate change, and it has a lot of implications for human health as well. For example, the discovery of new drugs. So what are the health effects of climate change? Usually we distinguish between direct, rapid effects, which are associated, for example, with floods, with heat waves, with drought, cyclones. These affect high-income countries, but also and particularly low-income countries. And then we have the indirect effects, which are a consequence of the previous type of effects. For example, food insecurity related to droughts. For example, mental effects related to floods in low-income countries. And all these effects interact with social underpinning conditions. So usually the health effects of climate change are greater for low-income countries and deprived populations in high-income countries. So just to make a few examples, this is what happened in the summer of 2022 in terms of excess deaths due to heat waves, to the heat wave that occurred in that summer. There were 62,000 excess deaths related to the heat wave. And the mortality rate was pretty high in Italy. In fact, it was the highest in the Mediterranean area, 62,000 deaths in Europe. So Italy is particularly vulnerable to the effects of climate change, as in general the Mediterranean area. And we have observed increasing drought in southern Italy, but also in northern Italy in the last years. So there are many other implications of climate change. I didn't mention before, but this is a quite important implication, is the spread of infectious diseases. For example, vector-borne diseases related to a number of factors. Climate change is one, but other environmental challenges and degradation are also relevant. Deforestation and loss of biodiversity contribute for other types of diseases, particularly spillovers. This is a paper that came out in 2008, and it was in fact a seminal paper by Jones in Nature that showed that there had been an increase in the frequency of emerging infectious diseases starting in the 50s and probably accelerating in the 80s. People have tried to attribute these changes to the use of land, including deforestation. This graph shows that agriculture, but also other uses of land, including the intrusion of the human species into the wild forest, are associated with an increasing rate of emerging infectious diseases. So there are multiple human activities that are involved in increasing the risk of infectious diseases. And by the way, once again, this risk of infectious diseases is not evenly distributed in the world, but it affects particularly low-income countries. This is a figure provided by a former PhD student of mine at Imperial College, showing the international traits in green, and in magenta the areas of zoonotic infectious diseases. Basically what happens is that the trade of goods, foods and other types of goods to high-income countries leaves a kind of deterioration of the land in low-income countries, which is also associated with zoonosis. Okay, I will focus on a specific country because I have done research there. This is Bangladesh, which can be described as a land of water. The slide on the left is a satellite image showing that it is plenty of water there. There are three big rivers coming down from Himalaya, Brahmaputra, Ganges, and Meghna, and a lot of other small rivers. In fact, this is the region called Sundarbans, where the famous mangrove forest grows. First, we can observe a paradox on the picture on the right, which is women and children in the water because of a flood, who in the meantime procure fresh water from a well. Which is a paradox, but it is a reality because floods are quite frequent in Bangladesh. So we have discovered a problem many years ago, in fact, almost 15 years ago, thanks to Bangladeshi collaborators of mine, starting with a PhD student and then a postdoc at Imperial College, Anir Khan. The problem was an increased prevalence of hypertension in pregnancy and hypertension in the general population. We have conducted a series of studies, case control studies and cohort studies, showing that there was an association between hypertension, including the general population, and salinity of the water. The problem is that hundreds of thousands of people drink salty water in the coastal area of Bangladesh, and this is due to a number of forces operating, sea level rise, plus reduced flow of fresh water coming down from the big rivers I mentioned before because of the melting of Himalaya glaciers. And one additional force is shrimp growing, shrimp farms. On the coast, shrimps are grown in brackish water, and they have substituted rice, which was grown in fresh water. So we have identified a problem that is probably very common in coastal areas where you have big populations, like the estuary of the Pearl River, Shenzhen, the estuary of the delta of Mekong. And now we start observing the same phenomenon in high-income countries. On the right, you see Louisiana, where now boats have to bring fresh water because the water in the tap is salty. There is a salinization related to sea level rise and intrusion of sea level rise into the Mississippi. So what are the solutions? This is also relevant to health because several agencies have suggested approximately the same type of measures that should be taken. This is from Andrew Haynes of the London School of Hygiene, but it is very similar to what you find in the Green Deal from the European Commission or the suggestions of the International Energy Agency. That is, we have to act on a number of targets. And some of them, maybe most of them, are associated also with health benefits. In other words, if you mitigate climate change with most of these actions, you also have a health benefit. An obvious example is improving air pollution, improving air quality by decreasing air pollution, which has the double benefit of mitigating climate change and improving the population health, reducing respiratory diseases, cardiovascular diseases, lung cancer, and so on. So most of these interventions are also associated with positive health impacts. Well, these are three examples: improvement of air quality through a different transportation policy, for example, by giving up with the use of coal and fossil fuels and so on. Another non-health related co-benefit, we call them co-benefits, is stabilization of energy provision to low-income countries through a transition to renewables, particularly in this period in which the prices of fossil fuels and gas are pretty volatile. And a third example is healthier food. We even have a diet for the Anthropocene, as it has been called, which has been developed by a Lancet commission together with Harvard nutritionists, Walter Willett. And this is one example. This is empirical research we have done. This is a European study. We have enrolled 500,000 people in the 90s. It is called EPIC, European Prospective Investigation into Cancer in Nutrition. We collected very detailed dietary histories and we followed them up for about 30 years. The bars represent the number of deaths that could be prevented by shifting from a poor diet to a healthy diet, according to the suggestion coming from the Lancet Commission and Walt Willett and their working group. So on one side, moving from a poor diet to a healthy diet, we can prevent deaths, cardiovascular deaths, cancer, and other causes of death. On the other side, we classified the food habits of those people according to the greenhouse gas emissions associated with each food item, and also the use of land. And what we observe are the two lines below, that is shifting from a poor diet to a healthy diet also has the co-benefit of reducing greenhouse gas emissions, typically methane from meat production, and also the use of land, which means less deforestation. So this is the main message, that is there is a close link between climate change and health. Climate change and other environmental types of degradation have an impact on health. But in the meantime, if we act on mitigating climate change, we have health benefits, and policies that improve health have also the co-benefit of mitigating climate change. Thank you.